Hi, my name is Susan Elias, and this is another episode of Fashion Unfolded. Today we're going to learn how to cut and sew a three-piece vest shawl that I have on the mannequin. First, let me show you how this shawl is actually worn. I have it on the mannequin right over here, and this is one of the ways it's actually worn, where it's a longer version in the front as well as the back. It still has that vest-like look. The second way is to take this and turn it upside down, using the armholes again, putting it around the neckline, and you have a little bit more coverage in the front, and you still have that vest-like look in the back. The third way is to actually take the piece, and because it has two armholes, wrap it around the neck, put one of the pieces through the armhole, and wear it as a scarf. So this great little piece, it's in 100% silk with a cotton binding. I'm going to show you how to cut and sew that today. Here I have the fabric laid out already for you. This is silk jersey. The reason why I'm saying it's jersey is because it has a stretch. A woven fabric does not have a stretch, but this fabric does. That means it stretches, sometimes just one direction, but this stretches only one direction. Some others will stretch in both directions. I have it laid out here on the table, so you can see there's also a right side and a wrong side on all fabric. On this fabric, I have the right side up. And then I also have the length of the fabric, which is the warp, that goes along the selvage, which is the two edges of the fabric on every fabric. So I have that already laid out, and I've already cut a straight line here with my L square, so that I already have a straight line on the edge of this piece. Now I'm going to show you the pattern pieces. Let's see if I can get this out of the way. Too far out. So this is the pattern pieces that we're going to be working on today. So I tried to bring something very simple to you right now so we can work our way up. It's just three pieces. I have the center back piece, and then we have another one of the pieces right here, and then the third piece. What's different about a home sewing pattern and a professional pattern are several things. I'm going to show you that right now. Right now, I'm going to want to also show you that it has a grain line. You see that line? If it has arrows at the end of it, that indicates it's actually a grain line. And on the grain line is very important information. What the pattern piece is, and underneath that is how many times you have to cut that piece. The difference between a home sewing pattern and a professional pattern, one of the main things is that on a home sewing pattern, they have it just one half of it, and they have like place on fold. In a professional situation, you never fold your fabric. Everything is always laid out flat, one layer at a time. You can also then layer over that and have as many layers as you want, and have an industrial type of cutter to cut that as well. We're just going to show you one layer, simple, how this pattern is made. So there's no fold on these pieces, meaning I have to open every single pattern opened out. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Because this pattern has a lengthwise grain this way, we have to follow the grain of the actual fabric, which is, this is the lengthwise grain. We have to then put the actual grain line parallel to the selvage, and I'm going to go ahead and measure that in a moment. But first I'm going to lay out the pieces. The best way to do that is just to see where the pieces could fall and where you can get the most use of your fabric without wasting any fabric or any goods. So I'm going to go ahead and actually put it this way. So I have all three pieces in this area that we are working on right now. The first thing I'm going to do is take this large piece, and I'm going to measure with my tape measure on the actual grain line and make it parallel to the selvage. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And it says it's about 8.5. With a knit fabric, it does want to curl a little bit, so that could be a little bit of an issue. But give or take, you'd want to make it pretty much close. So I'm measuring it, and I'm trying to get that 8.5 all the way down. And that's what I'm getting right now. And I'm pretty close. I pretty much have that all the way down. Once I get that, we use these things that are called weights. there's no pinning in a professional cutting situation. They use these actual weights to weigh down the fabric from the pattern. And here we go. I just put them in areas that I need them all the way across. The same thing has to happen for all these pieces. So this piece here, I'm going to have to measure again from the selvage and make sure that this is parallel. And this wants to go just slightly up like that. And there we go. And I'm going to weigh that down as well with one of those. This is what happens on all pieces in a professional situation. So I've got one more piece to do here. I'm going to try to do it on this side so you can see me. This is 26. And this, if it was uncurled, would be 26. And let's make this a little further over here. So we're good. This is pretty good right there. So now that we have all the pieces actually weighed down, I'm going to tell you a couple of other things with this. I don't have enough weight, so I'm going to use whatever works. So let's go ahead and just put this here. You can buy in a home sewing situation these little weights. You can buy these anywhere. I think Joanne has them for smaller pieces to kind of actually weigh down areas that might need a little bit more intricate cutting. So you're going to go ahead and do that. The other thing that's important to know about a professional pattern is the notches are all cut within rather than stuck out like a little arrow on an actual, I'm repeating myself, but let's get that done. So anyways, so the notches that I have here on this pattern, like I was telling you in other videos, are an indication on how the garment is actually sewn together. So they're very important. And they're usually about 1/4 of an inch little cut inside of the pattern that we snip. And that tells the sewer how to put it together. They actually put it together like a puzzle, comparing the 1 notch or 2 notch to the 1 notch or 2 notch on another piece. So now I'm ready to cut this piece. And I'm going to go ahead and use a scissor over here. One of the things that actually makes it easier to cut, I've noticed, because you don't have pins very close to the edge, is I use my left hand to actually weigh down the pattern piece as I'm going along. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now, and hopefully you can see this. And I have it, and I'm just weighing it down enough that I can cut. So here we are as well. Sometimes I like to actually hold the other end, which is the outer edge, instead of the actual piece. Whatever makes you do it easier. I mean, whatever is comfortable for you. You'll learn and you'll get a flow with it. Don't be intimidated by it because it really isn't that difficult. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut it all the way down. And another thing that I was going to show you, but I didn't have the proper tool, is that when you're cutting a very silky fabric, such as something like this, which is this silk jersey, sometimes you like to encase it in tissue paper. But I'm going to show you without that so you can actually see the pattern and see the whole way it's cut. So I'm going to go ahead and cut around here, like that. And this is the part that's going to be a little tricky. You want to get a table that you can actually go around. And that's what I have right here. And I'm going to cut this here. Okay. And to go around, you have to just find a place that's, sometimes I can do a little smaller scissor. I'm going to do some of these rounder pieces. These scissors can be purchased in any home sewing place as well. The weights you would have to get in a professional situation or professional store. But I'm sure you can think of ways of doing it in your home if you don't have those professional weights. Okay, I'm just going to go all the way around the piece. Using my left hand again to push it down whenever I need it. And go around. Okay. And we're almost finished with this piece, and I want to show you what we do with the notches. Okay, this piece is done, and now I have notches just on this side of the pattern. What you do is you take the tip of the scissor and wherever you see a notch, you make like a little slash, just a tiny bit. It could not be any more than 1/4 of an inch because on an industrial pattern, there's only a 1/2 of an inch seam allowance. So you want to make sure that you don't cut too much or you're going to cut right into your seam. I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm lifting it up just to make it easier, but I want to show you when I have it down. We have 3 over here, so I'm going to show you these 3. Okay. And then just keeping the process going like that. The notches are one of the most important things, so don't leave that out. Make sure that you always bring that in to your pattern. Okay. Okay, so this piece is finished. What I like to do is just take the weights off, bring those over here, put that over here. So this is one piece that's been cut. I'm just going to put that over here for a minute, and I'm going to fold it just right sides onto each other. Continue to cut the other 2 pieces exactly how I cut the first piece, and you're on your way. So we have all 3 pieces folded right side to right side. I'm just going to put that over here. I want to show you a little bit with the fabric and with the pattern. I'm going to start off with the pattern so you can understand the way these notches work. Sometimes when I'm actually working with a seamstress and I'm training them on how to make the pieces, how to make the designs for me, I'll literally pin the pattern together and show it to them. It's like the engineering process will be already a little bit less complicated for them. So I'm going to show you how this works. I know it's hard to tell on the mannequin what that actual item is, but here we're going to just map it out with the notches so you can understand the way this works. I like to work with paper first. So here we go. Okay, so my pattern shows that it has 1 notch, 2 notches, and 2 notches. And I've noticed that this pattern piece right here has the same. So therefore, this piece goes in this area. I'm going to actually put it right sides together and pin the whole pattern for you together so you can see what we're doing. So I lined up the notches so they're exactly where they're supposed to be. I like to use these larger pins when I'm demonstrating. And so I'm just going to go right on the seam allowance so you can see how that's done. And it helps the seamstress in the sewing process, especially if it's a new garment that they don't have a sample of. So here we go. Okay, so then we know that this piece, believe it or not, was the center back piece. So now we have to figure out what else goes and where it goes. So I've noticed here that this piece has quite a few notches in the center front, the center back, excuse me, and so there's this piece. So that means that this little section over here, again, right sides together. This is the right side of the pattern, so we're making it with the right side of this pattern. Sometimes because it is paper, it's gonna fight you a little bit, but you can do it. So this is showing 1, 2, 3 notches. This is showing 1, 2, 3 notches. I'm going to put them exactly where they belong, and I'm going to pin it as if I'm sewing this pattern together. So I'm going to go with the curves. I'm going to let it shrink up or turn and okay, whatever it needs to do, because the paper will cooperate with you. Okay, so now on this side, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going on the actual sewing line, which is the 1/2 inch line. Okay, here we go. So then this pattern piece is now put together with that piece. So the only other part that we have notches to will hopefully have to join together. And that's what's happening right here. This has notches, and this little section has notches too. So I'm actually going to fold it this way. I'm going to bring the pieces together here and try to see where they line up. This one is lining up with that, that one's lining up with that. Okay. And I don't know if you can see that, but that's what's lining up. So I'm going to take my pattern pieces again, start with the first notch that I see there. They line up perfectly, and I'm going to put, again, my pins at the 1/2 inch mark, which is where it would be sewn. Okay, there we go. And you just keep doing that till it's all. This one is opening up because this is part of an armhole. It's a curved line, but this notch was indicated that was actually on a seam line. That's why that is, doesn't have a notch on the other end. I don't know if that shows. Let's see. Because there's not a notch on that, I'm going to just open that up and put it together like this. I'm going to do that to the other side. And you can see something that looks simple is a little bit more complicated than it looks. But once you learn how to just address the notches, and once you learn what to do with the notches, everything will be simple. Just going to keep going around. Here we go. And this is almost pinned together. And I literally bring it this way to the seamstress. And they do appreciate it. Because I design my own designs and I make my own patterns, there's no directions to what I do. I'm the direction. So I either have to verbally translate how this is made, or I pin it together so they can understand how it's put together. I know it looks very weird and very off, but now you actually have an idea of what this looks like, somewhat 3D. This is the back, and here are the armholes where the garment would have been worn. I mean, I know I might look a little strange, but I could probably do it on the mannequin so you can get an idea. Okay, here we go. So this is the shawl-like area that goes this way. Here are your armholes. Here's your diagonal. This would all be scrunched up into the neckline, and you get an idea of what it really is supposed to be. So when I do that, I will bring it to the seamstress, and she will have this, and then she'll also have the pieces that are here. And we're going to go see her next time, and she's going to show us how we actually put this binding together. Because this binding is done on a professional industrial machine that we're going to show you how it's done. Of course you can do this home sewing. Of course you can do it 1 or 2 processes with a regular straight stitch machine. But I thought it'd be kind of fun for you to see how it's actually done with an industrial machine with an actual foot that's attached to the industrial machine that allows you to do this process at one sewing. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Fashion Unfolded. Please remember that my channel is Susan Elias Couture or Fashion Unfolded.